Welcome back to PLP Science. Today we are answering a few of our viewers' questions on identical twins and more, specifically DNA and genetics, by bringing in an expert scientist on these topics. First, here's some background information on DNA and genetics. Let's talk about DNA. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It is a molecule that carries the instructions used to function your body. Then there are genes, which determine what characteristics you'll have through a random draw from your parents' genetics. The difference between these two things is that DNA is used for actually making your body, while genetics decides whether you'll have certain traits. The combination of a person's DNA and their genetics makes your unique self. Now, to answer some of our questions here at PLP Science Podcast, we have Jane Ellsworth. Welcome, Jane.
Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for coming. Let's get started. So our first question is from Carrie27. She asks, if twins are identical, are their fingerprints the same as well? Do you have an answer for that, Jane?
Well, I think that I should start off by saying that identical twins are not fully identical.
Wait, so you're telling me that even though they call themselves identical and they look identical, they aren't completely identical?
Yep, that's what I'm saying. Although they may look the same and their DNA and genetics are the same, things like their fingerprints are different.
So how are their fingerprints different and not other characteristics?
Genetics are passed down from your parents, making twins have the same hair, eyes, and other features. But fingerprints are made a whole different way. Fingerprints are created when you are still a baby in your mother's womb, and you press up against your surroundings, being the amniotic sac. Fingerprints are like moles and birthmarks. They are individualized traits that are never the same.
So what are the traits and how can they be passed on?
So genetic traits can be anything from your hair color to whether you have wet or dry earwax. Pretty much anything that can be passed down from your parents. You can have traits that arise from your environment and can change over time. These kinds of traits are called epigenetic traits. For example, your weight is a trait that depends on your environment.
Would your eye color be a factor that is changed by the environment?
No, eye color is a genetic trait because you are born with it and it doesn't change over time.
Wow, that's really interesting. So let's jump into the next question, which is from CoolCarl53, and he asks, if two sets of identical twins get married and have children, would the resulting cousins be identical to each other?
It is very unlikely to have twins in the first place, so it is almost impossible for their children to be identical because of the random selection of genes that are distributed to the children.
So you're saying that these cousins wouldn't look the same?
Yes. Due to the randomized genes that are passed down, you never know which characteristics the children would inherit. No one has ever had identical cousins before, proving that the likelihood of this happening is slim to none.
I've always wondered that, and I'm sure that many others have as well. It's time to move on to our next and final question, which was sent in by Theodora1, who asks, how do genotypes and phenotypes link to DNA?
To answer that question, I should first explain what genotypes and phenotypes are. Genotypes are the two genes that we inherit from our parents. For example, Isabel, what kind of hair do your parents have?
My mom has curly hair and my dad has straight hair.
Okay, great. So a phenotype is what gene actually shows. So you would have curly hair because curly hair is a dominant gene and straight hair is a recessive gene.
Wait, but I have straight hair. Am I adopted?
Due to family issues, this episode could not be completed. But tune in next week for another podcast from PLP Science.